Today, on the Comic Book Report, I've compiled my list of the top 5 most underrated Batman comics. Check it out. Greetings from Gotham, everyone. My name is Dominic, and this is the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. Before we dive into this top 5 video, I want to give a general spoiler warning. I will be loosely discussing plot details as well as flipping through the collections that are presented under each number, and now you know. Please enjoy my list of top 5 underrated Batman comic collections. If you have a collection you think should be on this list, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Here we go. Starting with number 5 on my list, we have Batman, Heart of Hush by Paul Dini. This standard size trade paperback I'll be reviewing today collects Detective Comics 846 through 850, which were initially published between September 2008 and January 2009. Right off the bat, guys, I gotta say I love the cover art we're given, as well as the background art. It's really stylized and just looks beautiful, in my opinion. The penciler for this collection is Dustin Nguyen. I really like his style. I haven't seen a ton of other things he's done, to be totally candid, but I love the detail. I feel like his pencils are very clean and have a kind of cartoony feel without looking too childish. Couple that with the writing of Paul Dini of Batman the Animated Series fame, and you have a pretty solid little collection here. I do believe it is underrated. Before I go any further, I just want to explain really briefly how I found this collection. I, like probably so many others, I'm a big fan of Batman Hush by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. And while this collection, Heart of Hush, is nowhere near the caliber of Batman Hush, when I saw that the character of Hush would be back, I had to check it out. I was a fan of the character and I wanted to see the next adventure with this villain. And overall, it really did not disappoint. The story itself is pretty simple. When Hush learns that the villainous Black Glove is trying to murder Batman, he returns to Gotham and tries to kill him first. Along the way, we learn a lot about Hush's backstory and get deeper insights into the characters of Batman and Catwoman, who in the course of the story has her heart surgically removed by Hush, upping the stakes. A very fun Batman collection. If you enjoyed Batman Hush, I recommend trying to find Batman Heart of Hush, my number 5 pick for top underrated Batman comics. Next up, we have my number 4 pick, Batman R.I.P. by Grant Morrison and Tony S. Daniel. And here is my standard size trade paperback of Batman R.I.P. Right away, readers are treated to this beautiful cover art painted by Alex Ross. It's just stunning to look at. While Batman R.I.P. has a lot of tie-in issues, this collection itself includes Batman issues 676 through Batman 683 and DC Universe number 0. Now the challenge is, where do I even begin trying to describe the story of this book? This collection takes place within Grant Morrison's Batman run. For those unfamiliar with Morrison's work, he's known for doing pretty trippy, out there, conceptual comics. I'm a personal fan of his, but sometimes he can go a little too far. His Batman run is one of my favorites, although I really feel like it straddles the line. The story in this particular volume picks up when Batman is waging war against the villainous Black Glove organization, who are trying to destroy him on every possible level, leading to Batman reaching his psychological breaking point, and us readers discover that Bruce Wayne conditioned his mind with a backup Batman protocol in case he was ever completely mentally compromised. This occurs within the pages of Batman R.I.P., and we are introduced to the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, which is Grant Morrison's cheeky way of introducing a character that was first around in the 1950s, and giving us a cameo appearance of Batmite. This story is a trip. This comic is a bit tough for new readers to dive in without having the broader context of Grant Morrison's run, but I do sincerely believe this collection is worth showcasing. I love the way that Morrison pays honor to Batman's entire history by some of these little character cameos. And even years later, I am completely floored that Bruce Wayne, of course, has a backup Batman personality in the eventuality that he is ever mentally compromised. For the unique and innovative storytelling, for Batmite, and of course, for Zur-En-Arrh. Batman R.I.P. by Grant Morrison and Tony S. Daniel is my clear pick for number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Batman Venom by Denny O'Neil. I want to start this by just saying there's a big gap for me between number 4 and number 3 in my choices. To me, Batman Venom is definitely a cut above, and this is the trade paperback collection I'll be reviewing today for Batman Venom. This collection collects Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, issues 16 through 20, which were originally published in 1991. While the pencils by Russell Braun in this story are gorgeous, the main attraction for me is the storyline itself by Denny O'Neil. When Batman fails to save the life of a young girl due only to his lack of strength, the Caped Crusader becomes obsessed with this idea of never letting it happen again. Enter the super steroid known as Venom. This is the same substance that is later responsible for the arch-villain Bane. But here, in the form of a few pills, we see Batman transcend his normal human limitations and become a super-powered drug addict and slave to Venom. It's a relatively simple premise that Denny O'Neil writes to perfection. Throughout the pages of this collection, we just get to see Batman rise to terrible new heights as well as crushing depths as he tries to come clean from the drug Venom. While still in the throes of the addiction, we get to see Batman's whole moral compass tragically skewed as rage and madness seep into his mind. This collection does such a wonderful job of underscoring the real fallibility of Batman, the humanness, while simultaneously showing us the purity of his ideals and just what makes him a hero in the first place. And while it's trivial, anytime you get to see a bearded Bruce Wayne or see him wrestle with a shark, you know it's going to be a good collection. Simply put, Batman Venom is one of my favorite standalone collections. It is a perfect book for new and returning fans alike. I first bought and read this collection years ago, hoping to gain an insight on the character of Bane, only to find out that this collection gave me a far better insight to the character of Bruce Wayne and Batman. I know this story is 30 years old now, but I still believe it should be talked about more, especially outside of the context of Bane. And that's why Batman Venom by Denny O'Neil is my clear choice for number 3. Number 2 on my list today is Batman Vampire by Doug Moench and Kelly Jones. At this point, you might be asking yourself, what in the world is Batman Vampire? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Titled Tales of the Multiverse Batman Vampire. I know what they really want to say is, this is an Elseworlds story. Outside of the main continuity and canon, these are stories that are more of what-ifs or alternate worlds where Batman could exist. And in this one, it's in a world of vampires. Now, what this trade paperback collection actually contains are 3 separate 90s stories that all serve as sequels to the one before it. First, we have Batman and Dracula, Red Rain, followed by Batman, Bloodstorm, and concluding with Batman, Crimson Mist. I should note at this point, for those expecting a general run-of-the-mill Batman story, this collection is a bit more violent, a bit more explicit than those intended for readers of all ages. That being said, I added it to my list for a few reasons. The first being, personally, I'm a sucker for anything that capitalizes on the Universal Monsters properties. If it has a vampire, if it has a werewolf, if it has a mummy, I want to read these things. And 2, this is a collection I had to find. No one ever talked to me about it. I didn't even know it existed until I found it on Amazon one day. And while it is technically out of the DC canon, there's still incredible Batman stories that really give you a cool insight into these weird hypothetical situations. Like, what if Batman had to fight vampires? What if Batman himself was a vampire? What if Batman crossed moral lines that he never would in the mainstream canon? It is such a treat to see what would happen to some of Batman's most iconic characters, like Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, and even the Joker in a world filled with vampires. For fans of horror, vampires, and Batman, this is a must-get for the right price. It's funny, it only took a few pages for me to really see how much vampires in Gotham City really make a weird kind of sense. And while the stories from Doug Monek are so much fun, it's really the pencils from Kelly Jones that help set this rich gothic atmosphere. If this is up your alley, check out Batman Vampire, my number 2. And finally, we've arrived at my number 1, Batman Black and White, Volume 1. Batman Black and White is not your typical Batman collection. It's a series of 8-page vignettes, or Batman short stories, if you'd like to think about it like that, which all come together in this rich anthology from some of the industry's top creative talent. This trade paperback collection I'll be reviewing today collects Batman Black and White issues 1 through 4. Batman Black and White Volume 1 collects something like 20 stories, while also including unique covers and sketch work to create a volume unique to my collection. And while this book contains many hidden gems, including one drawn by Bruce Timm, creator of the Batman animated series, it is because of the inclusion of the first story that I have really put it on this list. The story itself is called Perpetual Mourning, written and illustrated by Ted McKeever, who is a creative I had not heard about before or since, but whose singular work in the beginning of this collection has been set apart in my mind for creating one of the most beautiful Batman stories I have ever read, achieving this in only 8 pages, I may add. The entire story of Perpetual Mourning occurs in a morgue, as Batman speaks to the dead corpse of a woman who was recently assaulted and murdered. He talks to her while examining her and the evidence to reconstruct the circumstances about her death. Throughout the pages, we see a real connection that Bruce has with this victim, and the honor he gives the dead. As the story comes to a close, and Batman tells her that she will now be a part of him forever. Someone in his heart who he carries with him as he wages war on the criminals of Gotham. My meager description cannot convey the near poetic beauty of this piece. I can do nothing more than to point you at it and say, please go find and read one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. And after you've finished, please continue and treat yourself to the remaining 19 or 20 stories and all of the beautiful covers and sketches that make up the rest of Batman Black and White Volume 1. While the collection doesn't have a lot of pulse-pounding adventure or long-form storytelling, understand that that is by design. Batman Black and White is supposed to be something else, and it is. If you're a Batman fan looking for something different, I recommend my number 1 pick for the most underrated Batman comic book collections, Batman Black and White. And there you have it, friends, my top 5 most underrated Batman comic book collections. Batman Heart of Hush, Batman R.I.P., Batman Venom, Batman Vampire, and finally, Batman Black and White. I hope you enjoyed watching this half as much as I enjoyed making it for all of you. If you've liked this content and would like to see more, I encourage you, subscribe to my page and consider giving this video a like. And feel free to look at some of my other top-rated videos. My name is Dominic, and thank you so much for checking out the Comic Book Report. See you next time.